Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today I wanted to go over Star Trek Strange New Worlds Episode 2, titled Children of the Comet. Now, I know I'm a little late to this, but just like the reviews that we did for Picard and Strange New Worlds Episode 1, we kind of wanted to sit on it, watch it a couple times, and just kind of immerse ourselves with it. So, what we'll do, go over some of the pictures I've taken from the episode, drop my 2 ECs, and then give my conclusions at the end. So here we go. So kind of the first shot here, we see aliens walking through sort of a barren wasteland here, giving off the vibe that this is a sort of primitive world. You see here I would assume that it's an alien mother with its child. They're kind of looking up, and in the sky, what's going across there is a comet. Kind of the title of the episode. There's a shot of it across the sky, but this is the shot that I decided to take here, which was from space. So nothing really new. We've seen this before. And then also an intro of one of the Star Trek series, DS9. But what's so special about this? So this is all going on. We hear Cadet Uhura doing a log. Now let me say that this episode is going to be very centric to Uhura, and I'm for it. The first episode, I had mentioned that I'd love, and I was surprised, and it exceeded my expectations when it was Pike and La'an. Here it's Cadet Uhura. So what they're trying to do here in the first couple episodes is really introduce the crew of this iteration of the Enterprise, and I'm for it. And apparently this is a Persephone system that they're sort of surveying. And again, just going over that, apparently seems like it's kind of a slow period. So apparently this is where she's assigned. But then also seems like she's gotten an invite, not only her, but the crew, to Captain Pike's quarters. Now, she is in her dress uniform, meets Ortegas in the hallway, and Uhura sees Ortegas. She's like, what are you doing? And apparently this is some sort of prank. And I love this. I really do. It just kind of, again, forming the relationships between the crew. And even though the pacing here, I would say, was okay. I won't say it's too fast, it was too slow. It was just right. It really did feel just right for me. And again, introducing the character more of Uhura, but with Ortegas, I had mentioned this before. I think I'm going to like Ortegas, and we'll go over that as we go through this episode. But Ortegas was awesome in this episode, but this is how we kind of sort of get more little screen time of Ortegas. She's pranking the new cadets, and she's saying because it gets bored here, and that's kind of all they have to do. So Uhura's like, okay, well, I'm going to change. He's like, you don't want to be late. And Uhura's just kind of like, fine. Now, of course, they get to Captain Pike's, Captain Pike's quarters, and Pike's laughing, dress uniform. So apparently this is a hazing thing. This is a thing where it's very traditional for them to sort of prank the cadets, which, of course, this is not sort of new. We like to prank newbies here as well. So we go there. Of course, I love this shot. It's kind of one of those slice of life moments where Pike's in the kitchen. You see, Una grabbed Ortegas to help with that. You see Spock there, and of course, we now see Hemmer, who we're going to be introduced in this episode. And I'm all for that. And of course, Uhura walks in, approaches to officer there, but then sees Hemmer there, and Enar, who is visually impaired, goes to that. She offers her help, and of course, he's sort of offended, but this whole thing here was still sort of continuing a practical joke, because Spock kind of chimes in here, you've offended Hemmer, and of course, Hemmer just goes into talking about, all my other senses are superior, yada, yada, yada. It's a great introduction to Hemmer. Again, I don't know the actor, but this actor is from my native city. So that is pretty cool. And you know, they're just sort of introducing the characters slowly here. Now, the one of the things I did notice we'll go over as we go over the scenes, but again, this is just all practical joke. And at the end, you know, Hammer says, I like her, and Spock says too. Now, I'm going to speak to Spock here. I said it before in the first episode. I'm having a hard time connecting with him. He just seems so cold and dead, who he is. He's a Vulcan, emotionless, all that jazz. But I'm just having a hard time connecting with him. I connected more with Hammer than I did with Spock just in this few moments here. So just saying there, not that I'm saying they're doing a bad job. I still think they're doing a great job with overall of what I've seen from episode 1 and 2. It's pretty early, but I'm still pretty positive here. So they go over to the table. Pike's telling a story that he's trying to escape and his pants fall down. This is kind of a slice of life moment. You have your senior officers here. Again, you got Hemmer, Una, Pike, Ortegas, Chapel, Uhura, and Spock. But I didn't see M'Benga, Dr. M'Benga. So I'm kind of wondering why he's not here. But I guess he was off taking a rest. I don't know. It is what it is. Might have been busy with the med bay, of course. But of course, then why is Chapel here? So I'm not sure then if this is setting up an episode for M'Benga next to actually make it more concentrated on him. These episodes, again, are kind of taking the starting is introducing the crew. And I like it. I really do. Because it's giving us a good sort of sense of how they're going to be working together as a crew. Now, again, I've always said this before, Pike is setting the tone. So there they are, sitting on the table, laughing, joking around. And I like this. I really do. I found myself smiling in this moment. And again, I just could not keep myself but smile and just think that, yeah, this is awesome. I'm immersed into it. I'm invested. That's what I want to feel, is being invested in episodes like this. And said it before, this is bringing me back to like when I was watching Star Trek The Next Generation, where I'm just immersed. I'm just watching and enjoying. So they're continuing to talk about, you know, and Uhura telling a story. And of course, you know, Pike is, again, this is where you have great leadership, where he's just checking up on the crew. This is what he wants. This is why he's doing this, so that they can have a closer connection. And this is kind of like what you would sort of compare to real life, being like a manager's meeting with your staff, luncheon, dinner perhaps, just like this, so that you can get to know your crew more and get closer to them. There's a little bit of backstory here. So Uhura mentions that she had her parents die in a shuttle accident, and of course was taken in by her grandmother, who was a Starfleet officer, and that's kind of what started her journey. In this scene, though, they're also talking about Uhura's sort of how many languages she speaks. Pike thinks it's 12, and she's like, no, it's 37. But the majority of that is from where she's from, which is Kenya. And again, just building up that background story. Now, here in this scene also, she was sort of humming something, and that's why Pike kind of came over to her. That's going to play a role later. But again, that this scene, again, is centric to Uhura. It's focusing on Uhura. And so far, from episode 1 to 2, I'm invested in Uhura. I really did like the moments of her in episode 1 when she got trapped in the not trapped, but she was in the elevator with the alien. I thought that was pretty cool. So now goes back again, focuses on Pike. So I took this frame specifically because he wanted to ask Uhura, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Of course, he choked up. He choked up when he said 10. And of course, Una realized it and saw it in him that he was choking. He still got through it, but of course, we all know that, and we said before, that this is going to be a major plot point, major anchor for Pike when it comes to throughout the episodes. It's something that's going to continuously bother him. Now, I kind of hinted this in the first or mentioned it too. I'm not saying it's a bit much, but there's going to be a lot of going back and forth, the highs and lows with Pike in his mood, which I still think he carries pretty well. There's that. Again, this is where Uhura's giving her backstory. Great, again, great scene. I'm loving it. I just found myself really immersed and invested in her story. We see then that this is why she got into Starfleet, because of her grandma. Of course, the tragic backstory of her family there. After the dinner, of course, she's being walked by Spock, and he, paraphrasing, kind of mentions, you know what, if you don't want to be here, make way, pave way for others that do. So this is kind of the gist of this sort of scene here. Still having trouble connecting with Spock. I really am, because it just seems like he's trying too hard. I don't want to sound too negative. It's not really negative. It's just more that like I said before, I cannot connect with Spock. That's all. That's just me. Hopefully I get to. Again, he has a sort of big shoes to fill, and nothing against the actor. This moment, again, is setting up things down the road. So again, back to Pike's quarters. Una's there, just him and her, talking about the future, of course, and that he just keeps replaying those names over, the moment over and over again. And he can't really help it. This is going to be bugging him, and this is going to be a major point in the episodes going forward. And you can't blame him, knowing when you're going to die, like the exact way. And of course, you know, all he's still thinking about is the ones that he has to save. And I love this relationship between Pike and Una. Orming, you can tell how close they are. I love Rebecca Romaine. She's very, again, her presence is there, and it's like such an equal presence between the two when they're on screen together, because they're bouncing off of each other. And again, Pike is showing that respect to, even though of course he's the higher rank, he's able to sort of show that vulnerability to his officers, and especially more so to those like Una. And again, I found myself just being more invested in Pike and of course and Una. So he gets called to the bridge, and the next scene here we see the comet actually hitting the planet. Now this was in the trailer, and not that we didn't see this coming, but this was actually on the view screen, and when we saw it hit the planet, it actually rewinded back to a starting point. Now this was, again, sort of a simulation, which I thought was pretty cool. Gave us, again, kind of a shot here of the bridge and of that massive, massive view screen. Again, captains, you know the TOS screen is just like a bonus room window, and this is literally like a theater window. Again, it's fine. I do like the holographics on it. I am quite enjoying that, but I took this frame here because, again, just to show a little bit more of the bridge here. You see the station over there, but this showed a capability of the view screen that they can see and simulate what's happening. And of course, the issue is Spock is saying in 2 days, this thing is going to hit the planet. So they, of course, have to come up with a plan and of what to do with this planet. Now, this scene here, again, they go off of sort of a plan to launch torpedoes. We get a little bit more of Hemmer in this, but they're on the bridge, they're discussing the situation, Spock's taking him through it. It's a very rosy moment. Again, La'an is saying, hey, we can do this. And then, of course, there's a humorous line there from Hemmer saying that, for the most part, he's saying, like, oh, well, I'm the one who's going to be doing the work, right? Considering he's the one doing the work, you know, and La'an just said, well, we can do it pretty quick. He's like, sure, why not? But, again, a little bit more of Hemmer. It's a great introduction to him, but pretty much this is all we get from Hemmer. This is all we get. That's it. But, you know, it's gonna totally open up more sort of opportunities for Hemmer. It's setting up that he has a sense of humor, that he doesn't let his obvious impairments get in the way, because everyone knows he's a capable officer. Hence, well, that's why La'an said it. But it was cool, and so again, they prep the torpedoes, and here comes one of the golden moments here that I love, and we saw this on the trailer. He says, "Okay, people, we got a plan to say before breakfast," and turns over to Una, says, "I love this job." Again, Pike setting the tone. It's a serious tone, but then of course he says, "I love this moment." What this is doing for me is setting a sort of calm to his officers, that he is, he's good. I trust y'all. And again, I'm feeling the trust that he's building up with his crew here, because you can sort of hear it and see it, that he is actually looking for suggestions. And then of course it's his final say, but he is trusting his crew. And again, he is just a really good captain in my opinion. He is really nailing it. So now they modify the torpedoes, and this is the scene. This is one of the issues that I had with the scene. When I say issue, I'm not gonna throw a fit here and storm off my bridge here, but I was looking through Discovery of the scenes of the Enterprise. I don't think I saw any torpedoes firing. But having said that, I'm pretty sure the torpedoes fired in the TOS era were white. Now, these were modified torpedoes, so maybe that's why it's red. But they sounded like torpedoes, and maybe the changes, the modifications that Hemmer made to them were such that it also changed the color. That's all I got. But this is, again, it's a non-issue, but I'm saying it is because I took notice of it. But we're going to circle back to this later. But so they fired four of these torpedoes, and of course, this is where the Nani moment comes. The Nani. They hit it, and it's shielded. The Comet is shielded because what they wanted to do was just kind of veer it off course, but it was shielded. So that is what happened there. Now, again, it's red torpedoes. You can see there's a shield grid pattern there. And of course, they use the word force field. I'd say shield. I don't know, but whatever. It is what it is. So now, get a little bit more of Ortega's. Gets a little bit of eyebrow raising. Love it. She's like, that's all. that was pretty cool. And I thought that, with Ortega's, like I said before, I really do like the character. Starting to show a little bit more here. You can tell this is building up for an episode for her. All these characters are going to have their own episode. And I like it. And, for the 10 episodes or however many episodes we're going to get, I would think by the 5th or the 6th episode, we're going to then get to more episodes that are a little bit more action-packed, in my opinion, and or just the type of exploration that we've been looking for Trek in these many years that we've been wanting this type of episode. But it's still, again, a lightheartedness that I feel, even though it's like, what? So next thing they do is they go all to the briefing room here. Again, may I say how massive this briefing room is. Like, I think this is even bigger than the bridge. This is even bigger than the bridge. But can't show Una saying there's a subterranean sort of structure there. It's kind of on the screen there. So who you have here, of course, Una, Pike, Sam, Kirk, Uhura, Spock, and La'an. So the reason why Sam Kirk is here, he's kind of like the Xeno sort of expert here, alien expert. Literally, Pike asks him, hey, have you ever heard of a alien species building structures or homes or whatever have you on comets? He's like, well, no. So, but this is setting up that this is going to be minus Pike, the crew, and Una, the crew that will be going down there to check this out. So they all get suited up. That's the plan. They want to go down there, check this out, see what's going on. Now, again, keep this in mind. It's 2 days is what Spock said. In 2 days, that comet was going to hit. okay, is a scene here. Chapel is talking about the high levels of radiation. Okay, keep that in mind, captains. The high level of radiation that will be there on this comet. So they need this sort of medical injection that will help shield them from that. So they all get injected. While they're doing so, it is pretty painful, of course. For her as the first one, Kirk's the second one. They're kind of hurting. La'an takes it like a champ. La'an takes it like a champ, and she's like, Sam or her, after you're not her, you know, once you're all recovered there, you're with me. Then there's this moment, of course, with there's La'an getting, again, she's just this stone cold. Now, I will say, I'll speak a little bit on La'an here. I will say with La'an that she was sort of the surprise for me in episode 1. Here, in this episode, I kind of felt that it was too much. I'm the tough one, I'm the boss, I'm, you know, security, blah, blah, blah. It's not too much to sort of turn me off of her, because again, she was the sort of star for me in episode 1, but here it felt like it was a little too much for me personally. All the moments that it just had her really just kind of talking with the crew. Having said that, she's establishing her role as the security detail there, the security officer, making sure everyone's safe, and of course that this sort of confidence that she wants to make sure that they can trust her and that there's a certain level of secure trust that I got you. But a little bit much for me, but that's my 2 ECs. Now, I froze this screen because look at Spock's Chapel's going to Spock, and again, we've said this before, and I was told that there is a sort of flirty relationship between Chapel and Spock, but it's more of a one-way from Chapel to Spock. And you can see here she's biting his lip, says, "Are you ready?" And Spock says something about my pain tolerance is pretty high, and you know, Miss Spock's for the whole part is saying, you know, I'm good, get it. She says something to the point of, Mr. Spock, with a smile, laugh. I thought it was pretty okay. It is going to be shown with a lot of the moments between Spock and Chapel that there is this sort of flirtation relationship with Chapel, but only towards Spock. Spock is just clueless, but again, you can tell Nurse Chapel has a thing for Mr. Spock. And of course, her sees this. She didn't have to say anything here, but you know, it's like, really? Almost wanted to say get a room or something, but she didn't. It's kind of thinking it. Of course, there's a dramatic walkout. Now here you can tell it's again focusing on Uhura. You can tell she's nervous. A little dramatic, I put a note here, dramatic walkouts. But they're getting ready to go down to the Comet. They hear La'an is saying, you know, giving them instructions. They're about to transport down. And of course, heavy breathing from Uhura. She's nervous, but they get beamed down to the Comet. And of course, this is one of the scenes that we saw in the trailer. And yet they get beamed right there in front of the structure. And it's just a scene of just pure darkness on it. Now, their EV suits, I will say, again, they're pretty cool. I have them in Star Trek Online. They're cool. Something that, of course, is, if you compare them to the suits from TOS, these are better. They're absolutely better. But they're walking into the structure here. Of course, they get to this main room and they see this huge egg. It's like an egg-like structure in the room. And there's only 4 of them that went down to this mission. Now, Sam, there's some moments here from Sam here. Can't say I connected with Sam here, but you know, he had some lighthearted moments here, kind of asking her opinion or what she thinks. They kind of exchange back and forth. He's like, well, you're the expert, you're here for a purpose and all that stuff. So kind of has her just start looking at it, start analyzing it, right? Because and then she kind of mentions it looks like a pattern. So Rose looks at it. Now the so he then steps on to get closer to the egg structure. We're just gonna call it the egg structure. The floor lights up and he says Yahtzee. Okay, he says, as you see in the thumbnail there, captains, I put Yahtzee there because I thought it was funny. And he's, of course, saying it's an old Earth game. And Spock's like, yeah, no, I'm familiar with it. Now, he's going to touch it. And Spock's like, don't do that. There's a massive energy buildup. And, of course, what happens? Well, Sam touches it and he gets electrocuted. And he is sent flying. Like sent flying back, literally heart stops pounding, and they have to take off his helmet now. Okay, what did Nurse Chapel say? High levels of radiation. Mind you, they did say it is breathable area, but it's high levels of radiation. You would think they'd still try to, as much as possible, keep their equipment on, but in this situation, I guess not, and they just took the risk. But Spock uses a tricorder to scan him. His heart stopping. Of course, then they're trying to communicate with the bridge. Here, there's a shot again there. I find that this minimal. It's fine. There's like empty stations here, but again, just a scene here that I picked here because I'm just going as the episode goes on, taking pictures here and there, taking screenshots, pictures. But then, of course, Mr. Spock uses his actual tricorder as a defibrillator in defibrillator mode. Activate, and of course he's trying to revive him. Pike says, hey, try to get them out of there. Kyle here says he can't because the shield came up. That's not good. First shock, nothing. Second shock actually gets him somewhat alive again, his heart going, but he's stable, but he's in critical condition, and they have to sort of get back to the med bay because yeah, he's not doing so good. So let this be a lesson to you kids. Do not step on a platform that has an egg structure in front of you and don't touch anything. Okay? Just saying. Of course, Uhura is just all flustered. Again, heavy breathing, showing that she's scared and not sort of ready for the moment. But again, they're looking after Sam. And now they all take off their helmets. Okay, now they take up all their helmets. So I'm nitpicking at this point, but again, of what Nurse Chapel say, you would think, but whatever. It's a breathable chamber. Maybe it's not so bad because they're inside. Fine, I'll give it to you this. So again, the egg is still shining there. You know, again, La'an says that he's stable. Another shot of the planet. Because again, now the comet is going to hit them. It's just showing that, and the mother here and the child, again, just a shot of them, really. And he gets back to the bridge here. He's telling his crew, okay, we need to get our crew back. I want to know how. Again, this is what I spoke to earlier. He's asking the crew for suggestions, and I love it. You know, again, this is where his commanding presence comes into play, but he's still taking recommendations, suggestions from his crew. This is not new. Captain asking for suggestions. At least we don't have someone acting rogue. He's steering the ship as the captain, and I like it. No one's acting out of, you know, their own sort of personal thought. He's leading them, and I like that. I like that. It just harkens back to old Trek. Now, of course, the plan is Ortegas says, let's fire a phaser, but a phaser that's going to cause some resonance and some of those techno babble paraphrases there that I love. And, you know, Una agrees. It's going to work. Pike says, I like this plan. It's a good plan. Again, from a serious situation, he'll just say, I like this plan. You know, it's just sort of a lighthearted moment. And I don't think it's bad. I think it just sort of keeps the pacing of the episode, in my opinion. Again, it makes me smile. So I'm going to lean heavy into what makes me smile. So, you know, here, again, back to the surface, Uhura's looking at this. Spock kind of gives her a little pep talk and just starts talking to her. And just this moments between the two, again, I'm having a hard time connecting with Spock. Said it before, and I'll keep saying it until the day that I do connect. Even if I don't connect, that's fine. But this is more about Uhura, more about her trying to figure out. So it's all up to her to figure out what's going on here and what they can do to get the shield down so that they can get out of the comet. So again, keep in mind, 2 days that this was sort of happening here in terms of all this time frame. So, and this is going to play a little bit more when we go to the episode here. Now, then they get shot. Okay, they get shot, and they're about to fire, but then they get shot. Out of nowhere, they get shot. They have some damage. One shot or whatever it is took their shields down to 70%. So that was no small little shot. That was a full-on hit to their shields, but at least their shields were holding. But you can see there now, I took this screenshot of this because it shows kind of the layout of their L cars here. I like it. It looks advanced, but it could also be, yeah, okay, it is what it is. But it looks cool. It looks clean. Again, a nice little shot of the Enterprise there on the screen. I love it. And they figure out it came from this alien-looking ship. This was from one of the trailers. We saw this already. I said then, I don't know, I don't recognize the ship. It might just be your alien flavor of the day, of the episode. But there, you know, it's a very huge looking ship. But where did it come from? They were able to scan the comet. They were able to scan the flight path of that comet, but they didn't see this ship, or it didn't come up on their sensors. Having said that, could they have some sort of technology that it's maybe compared to a cloak or stealth or something like that? Because yeah, they didn't notice a ship. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But I hope this ship doesn't come to Star Trek. Someone may want it. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of captains out there on Star Trek Online that they love their big, unique, I'm going to just say unique looking ships. And that's a pretty unique looking ship right there. Of course, now Pike goes, hailing frequencies, we see the aliens here, and they are known as the Shepherds. I like this. It wasn't too much in terms of interaction with the aliens. It was just the one alien throughout the whole episode. So, but they're saying that they kind of look over this. They're saying the comet's name Mahanit. Pike keeps referring to it as a comet. He's like Mahanit. And Pike tries to tell him the situation. He's gonna hit the planet. Essentially, he's saying that, well, this is Mahanit, and if he so chooses to destroy a world, he will. If he decides to move, he will. And if he goes out with the world, he will. So it was sort of okay. And of course, Pike's trying to take this all in because to him, it's just a comet. But to them, of course, it's not. So I like this interaction. It was really cool. The CGI of the alien was awesome. The hazing around the view screen kind of made it work for me and made it more realistic, if that's sort of a term that I can kind of look for. Is it just made it look realistic. But it's a shepherd. That's what the race calls, and they look after the Mahanit. Of course, in place of Uhura, there was this communications officers there. That was pretty cool. And again, another shot of the bridge. I took this one here because, again, you see that there's the stairs leading up to the view screen, some guardrails over there. You see how far they are from each other. Again, this is a small community bridge. And you see there in between Ortegas and Una, that sort of display of the Enterprise. So that's, that's pretty cool. That's probably for Pike as a visual reference as he's sitting in the captain's chair. I like it. It's sort of harkens back. There was a sort of a console in between on the Enterprise, the original series, in Sulu and Chekhov. and that's kind of what they're trying to do there. I like it. I like the setup there of the helm there. But again, they're just kind of talking, negotiating. At the end, tells them to scan them, and really, they're no match. They are no match for this. They have no chance in winning because they're advanced. Keep that in mind. They're so advanced that they're gonna not have a shot against them. But we'll go over that more later when as we go cover this episode. Again, talking with the alien. I love the shot view screen. Again, something we may use when we're streaming somehow, or at least for the thumbnail of this video. So again, it's telling the situation, hey, we got a crew down there, and they're saying the attempt, if you try it, you're going to start a war, and that's not good. But again, as they're scanning along, everything, it's not good. It's not good. They're not going to stand a chance if they go to fight with these aliens here. There's another shot of that ship, of how massive that is. Again, here, Pike consulting with Una and Ortegas. Love that. You get a glimpse here of Ortegas's little visual instrument there. So we didn't see her look into it, but you can see there is something there that she gets to look at as a point of reference. Anytime that she was firing, or she was flying the ship, I should say, she never really looked into it. She just kind of reference pointed. So again, just Pike just kind of doing that whole thing. Goes back to the surface. Moment again. I took this screenshot because again, she was just being a little pushy. So what, we can get through this, and of course, her like, okay, yeah. So let me do my thing here. Again, it was all about Uhura. I loved it. Love the moments here. This really suited her. This episode really suited her. Now, this goes back to early in the episode where she was humming something. Now, while she was humming, Spock noticed that the room was starting to light up. And this is where Uhura makes a connection that that music is a form of communication to this egg, to the egg. And it showed, what I loved about this was it showed her vocal skills, and I loved it. It was very sweet because they'll start singing the song, humming, and she was really good at that. And of course, while on bridge, they're sort of getting this message from the comet. Pike recognized it, asked the computer to identify that, and it is the song that comes from Kenya, which of course was Uhura, what she was humming when they were in the dinner in Pike's room there. So when is it? That's not a fluke. That's a signal. So now this was a little bit of a cringe-worthy. I'm going to say it's cringe. It was a little cringe because Uhura asked Spock to hum along with her, and it was cringe. It was pretty cringe. But she needed someone to help her out, to figure out communication styles with this. La'an was saying, yep, no, don't look at me. So Spock was it, and at the end, they made it work between the two, because at the end, it did open. The egg did open because of Uhura, and how it was more of a collaboration, because Spock noticed the room was lighting up from Uhura's humming. Again, this showed just how beautiful her voice was. So I hope that future episodes will show a little bit more singing from Uhura. She has a beautiful, gorgeous voice. And captains, in real life, I am part of a choir, and I always am very jealous, I should say, because Triz doesn't have the best voice here of people who have very good voices, and she does really have a good one. So again, back to the ship, the actual shields drop from that once Uhura got it all sang out. Now, I like this visual here, because those, when I saw this, at first, for some reason, the first time I saw this, the bottom row there, those oranges, I thought it was files. Like, how we have files on our desktop? I thought that what it was. It was kind of hilarious and funny. So anyways, shields drop. Kyle gets him back. So this was 2 days? They were stuck there for 2 days? I guess, because it's gonna play here. Nurse Chapel rushes in here again. No Mabenga. There was no Mabenga, so that may be something you would think in a medical emergency. Mabenga would be the first one, but maybe they'll explain why. I don't know. I'm looking into it too much because we are taking notes and everything. But that's the one thing I noticed. More Nurse Chapel for this one. There was no Mabenga at all, and like I said, there was no more Hemmer from that point on where we saw Hemmer on the bridge last. So they get him there. He's fine. He's going to be fine. And now they're back on the bridge, of course. And they're trying to just come up with things and plans. And this moment from Ortega's, from when Pike went to talk to the alien saying, let's work it out, find some common ground. And then she says, well, that went well because the alien cut the communication. And here we go. Now a fight starts ensuing between the alien ship, the Shepherds, and of course the Enterprise. Now I just took this screenshot because of what they were firing. It looks like it was firing from the main sort of central location there of that ship. I thought that was a deflector, but apparently, or maybe still, or maybe around, but it looks like it was coming from that. So now, captains, I've said this before, first thing I love about Star Trek is the ships. So this next sequences of the space stuff waltz that we had going on here, I loved it. I was so for it. I was just like, yes, let's go. It really had some great shots here. And of course, now we're going to see a battle between the two here. So the battle, it cuts to the Enterprise, torpedoes coming towards them. And again, now we're going to see some dancing here. But they do get shot. They do get shot. Definitely get shot here. And it was good. I appreciated all these shots. And then you see the camera from behind the Enterprise, that aft, yes! Look at that. Sorry, captains, I get too excited. And it just looks really good, the Enterprise. I'm really loving how I've mentioned this before, that they respect the Enterprise as its own character. And we have these. And for me, I love these battles. And what this does allow in our time now is a little bit more intricate shots. And they really did sort of give us that here in these sequences here. So they're facing off against the aliens. You can see that they're just flying through space here. Again, the sense of scale, when the camera is pulled back, it just gives you a sense of scale of how small the Enterprise is compared to the alien ships. And I love that. I really do appreciate that. Of course, they are getting hit. Now the shields are down to 40% from the hits that they're taking. And it's just not good. And it just speaks to what they said, that they're no match for them. They're no match for them. Okay? Now Spock says that they have an hour left. So all that whole time that they were stuck on the planet was almost 2 days worth of just being them stuck there. How's that? And then this is a lighthearted moment. You have an hour before the comet hits the planet. Uhura says, this kind of, even though the situation is grim, Uhura says that, like, this was in the trailer, saying that you have an act for reminding of deadlines. And of course, Pike's like, she does have a point there. Again, lighthearted during a battle. It just oozes a sort of calm that Pike is sort of maintaining on the bridge to make sure that they keep their head on their shoulders, not too much. Now they decide to fight back. Here's the second issue I had. They fire a phaser. And it's orange, reddish. That looks like a TNG Onward phaser. I looked at the battle scene from the Discovery and the Enterprise. It was shooting the blue screeching phasers. This is where I have to tell myself, listen, it's not an issue, fine, maybe they'll explain it, maybe not, but that is an issue, not that it's going to take, make me go away, leave the bridge pouting, oh, my phaser's not blue. No, it's orange. But this single phaser, so we'll go around back on that. This single phaser okay, knocked them out. An advanced species that is literally can rip the Enterprise in however many volleys. It only took one phaser shot from the Enterprise to knock the ship out. So sure. Now, here Spock is looking at his instrument. I thought it was pretty cool. This scene here where it's making him, you know, this scene is making harken back to TOS, where he'd always be looking into his. It would have been nice if it was a little brighter. I'm not mistaken, it was a little brighter there on TOS, but or of the scenes that I know I said I don't watch it, but I've seen scenes of him looking into that instrument. Looks like a little. It looks pretty beefy, and to be honest with you, it looks like an end of a phaser, just sort of supersized. Just me, just me. So again, another shot of a pullback of the Enterprise. They disabled after one shot. For now, Lon says it's going to be short, but for now they get this. So now Pike goes to Ortegas. A little bit more background. Apparently, she's one of the best pilots, and I appreciated the scene a lot because if you notice in this scene, she was kind of jittery in her seat. She was kind of like moving back and forth, kind of excited, and essentially Pike's saying, hey, listen, we need to rely on your skills. And then she comes up with this sort of Ortegas Gamma 1 evasive maneuver thing that was hilarious. I thought that was pretty funny. But again, it's showing a little bit more of Ortegas's personality. And I really enjoy that. Evasive pattern, Ortegas Gamma 1 or whatever it was. I thought it was hilarious. She's typing it. Like, there's this smile on her face. And I'll go back to the sort of video that we did about the actresses doing their sort of take on the character. She was really into learning as much as she can, being the helmsman of the Enterprise. And it's, I think for me, it's showing. So again, I'm kind of fanboying here over Ortegas. I love her character so far. I'm invested in her. And then now she makes up this moment, and Una's like, sure, all right. Even she didn't even have to say anything, but she was like, okay, all right, yeah, why not? So this next sort of sequence is okay. They're getting fired at. So they're going away from the alien, and it does sort of like a back loop. And this goes again to now, captains. We actually just released a video as of this recording, the rock and roll build that we did in Star Trek Online. We're going to have to revisit that, but I'll speak to that later. But check that video out, captains. I'll leave it at the end here of this video. But this is a beautiful sequence. I love it. This almost looks like how I fly in Star Trek Online. It's kind of very jerky, herky-jerky, but I appreciate it because it just really, so it just looked really good. It really was. It's so simple, too. It's just two ships. And this is something I was talking about in some of the videos that we've done on Picard and my thoughts on Discovery, that it was such a grand battle. This was just between two ships. I loved it. I loved it. It just focused on the Enterprise and the Shepard alien ship. And it made for a more sort of, it just made it more watchable for me, because this is how and what I grew up with, and TNG were just kind of one ship against one ship. And I loved it. Now, here we see the Enterprise is getting shot here and there. And this is one of the things that I mentioned before in the trailers that I saw when they got hit, that the shields were hugging the ship. And it looks like that is the case here. So even though evasive maneuvers, it's realistic, I love it. They're still getting shot. Well, I don't love it, but it just makes for a compelling scene, in my opinion. Again, they're just... So the plan here is to get in front of the comet. So that's why they do that loop, and they'll have the aliens sort of follow them. And here it is. So I took the shot because look how beautiful that, again, I've said this before. If anything from Discovery, the Discovery gave us the Disco Prize, and it's a good looking ship. Again, the only thing I wish that these pylons are straight, but whatever. It still looks bloody good in my opinion. Now, I took 3 shots of this, so you can see clearly that the shields are hugging the ship, even outlining the impulse engines. Look at that. So they get hit. They're in the saucer. At this point, their shield was below 40%. So, man, and they got hit 3 times in this sequence. 3 times. So they're the saucer. They're on the pylon. See, there you go again. Just the pylon itself and the actual nacelle itself. And again, a little bit more detail there on the shield hugging, I call it a handle, but whatever that is, on the warp nacelle. So I have a little issue with that. From what I was told here by my fellow captains, in TOS, they didn't really show necessarily sort of shield bubbles there in TOS. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, make a comment below, captains, but it is what it is. I'm trying to just look past it. It would have been nice if they would have said, you know what, forget what you knew, this is retcon, this is what we're doing, we're reimagining it, sure, fine. But that's a little bit of another issue for me. So now, again, they're in the trail of the comet. The aliens stop firing because why? They don't want to hit Mahanit / aka Comet. So again, a beautiful sequence here of the Enterprise flying through the asteroid field. Again, Pike saying, yeah, they don't want to hit Mahanit, the comet. I really appreciated this because it just showed how nimble and agile the Enterprise is for a cruiser that is actually bigger than its original sort of size from the TOS. But again, we're seeing the asteroids hitting the Enterprise with its shields that are hugging it. There again. Now, they get to the front of the comet, they turn off the power. That's essentially what Pike does. Pike tells him, we surrender. He's like, well, what if we don't want your surrender? And Nana's like, well, we're going to blow up, and if they don't get tractored out of place, their warp core is going to blow up such that it's going to explode Mahanit. If they fire on them, the aliens fire on them, they're going to blow up, and they're going to blow up Mahanit. So it's sort of that smart little plan that Pike had. And then they said, just let us do this, please, or whatever, how that came about. I like this moment because Pike literally sort of took a gamble, and it paid off, at least for this, because it set up one of these scenes here. And again, Ortega's looking at her instrument there, kind of looking. She didn't look directly into it. It looks like it's fixed. I'm not sure if it's moving, but we all know in the TOS we saw Sulu looking into that instrument there. But then, signal Spock, your turn. Captains, you know how much I love the shuttle. I love the shuttle. So this is a great sequence. Spock was actually on asteroid, so sometime, whenever that was, Spock literally flew out the aft of the Enterprise and sort of waited there. So this is a beautiful sequence of the shuttle flying through. Again, out of all the shuttles, if I had to make a rank system, I mean, I like the Delta Flyer. I like the shuttlecraft in Insurrection. This is up there, though. For some reason, this is just working for me. And it's just such a simple design, but yet it works. And again, a beautiful sequence of this thing just going over and over again. Shows a little bit more details of the inside. For some reason, I don't know why this has a steering wheel. I thought it was all just manual buttons, but sure, it has thrusters. Sure. And again, little shuttle here going through the asteroid field. Apparently what it's doing is sort of nudging the asteroid without touching it, really. Well, it did kind of scrape it, but this shot here, that little red speck in the screen was there to show how big this comet was, but it was also splitting in half. And of course, there's another shot of the inside. Again, pretty spacious shuttle here. And again, Spock just kind of maneuvering out there. A little tense moment on the bridge. Again, I appreciated this. They did, like I said, they did scrape it, but it was enough. Una turns on her station there, and it shows that it did actually veer off there. And shot there, of course, everyone there. Now, the comet then passes the planet. Whilst it's doing that, it changes the actual planet's weather, make it now more sustainable for plants. So, you know, that was kind of, this scene was really nice. I did actually enjoy it. There's like a purple-ish glaze kind of going over the planet while the comet was passing through it, you know, and you know they show it on the screen there, Persephone 3. The data is showing it's changing the actual dynamics of the planet weather and making it more sustainable for life. That it's, again, because it was showing that it was a barren, sort of dry planet, but now, because of this comet slash Mahanites, this is what it did. And there's another beautiful shot. Again, just another shot of the console here too. I do like this. It just looks so good. I wish it was just something that we can get post Voyager, which we kind of do with Picard and the Stargazer, because the screens are that big. And I just got to get over it, but I love this shot. It was really good. And of course, you know, all smiles around Ortega's this time. Now, the one thing I noticed, there was two things I noticed on the bridge here while they were fighting. One, there was no flying rocks or styrofoam blocks. Two, that little steam coming down from that one location near the elevator there, the turbo shaft. So I just thought that was pretty funny. But again, the alien says, "Do you see now the wonder of Mahanites?" He decided to give life to this planet or make it not destroy it. So I thought it was really cool. Again, these episodes are more contained in itself. They're more just going to be contained within that. There's not going to be a arching story for the general part. There will be, of course, from the personalities of the characters, but the issue of the episode is going to be all tied up. And so this comet was going to hit the planet. They thought it was going to hit the planet, but they meet an alien species. There's a little bit of a threat. They do what they think they need to do to veer the comet off base, and then all of a sudden it's actually spawned a change in an atmosphere where it made it more hospitable to plant life. And this guy, we heard the alien saying, "See, told ya." Of course, Pike says, "Thank you." I thought that was pretty cool. Ortega's getting all sassy there still. I did appreciate this still, because all power is still off. They didn't do anything yet. But it was a good way, you know, nothing happens. They can move on from it. Pike said, "Thank you." And now it's showing, of course, the rain happening there on the planet. So now, of course, they're rejoicing. They're very happy. Now this is going to change their lives. And this is what the shepherd was saying. That was Mahanit's doing. And there was another shot of the comets, Mahanit, flying across the sky. Of course, I'm not sure if the aliens made that correlation, but that's what they saw here. I did like all this overview of the characters. Again, you had Uhura there, the officer taking her place, or Tegus, kind of, it's just sort of cool, kind of an overview. Again, her looking instrument. Got Una there, and the shot again of the comet continue on its way with the shepherd sort of trailing behind. Again, going back to when they first got shot, they didn't detect this. Could this alien species have some sort of cloak technology or stealth technology that they could hide? But it's so, that thing is massive. How could they have not seen it? But it is what it is. I try not to look into it too much. But I liked how that all turned out. Now, they go into the briefing room with Uhura, Spock, Pike, and Una. And I had to watch this a couple times, but apparently the gist of it was whatever happened, even up to Spock's little shuttle run there, this was all predetermined. This was all going to happen anyways in the end. So what they're trying to say is, or show, was that this was just not your ordinary comet. It was, I guess, they didn't really say it, but some sort of being or sentient being. They didn't say it. They say that, but that's kind of the gist I'm getting. It was showing that it was supposed to veer off anyways, regardless. So again, great episode, having Uhura closing it off in this fashion, explaining all this stuff, because again, it's split up in two, but sort of kind of even alluded a message from the future or something like that. But I love this view screen here, and those sort of lights below the view screen, it does sort of remind me of old school sci-fi movies slash, you know, old Star Trek movies, TMPs and whatever I started watching too. So I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, Pike says, "Thank you for your reports." He's giving that confidence to her. You know, Una's right there supporting. And you get this moment again between Spock and Uhura, says, you know, just gives her another pep talk, saying that Starfleet would be happy to have her if she decides to stay. And of course, we all know she does. But this episode was really good in centralizing Uhura. I thought it was great in terms of how the actress is making Uhura her own. And yeah, I'm connecting with Uhura. Spock, I'm still having trouble with, but that would probably be an issue going forward for me. And of course, that little smile from her, and she's really happy about that. And again, so it goes back to Pike and Una talking about Pike's future. Of course, he just can't get away from it. He really can't. And I thought the first episode, there's a lot of reminding of Pike's sort of future. Here there wasn't as much, and I think that is a good way to go, not to always throw it in the face, but to maybe cap on it. Fine, sure, I'm okay with it. And of course, the next scene here, he actually asks the computer for the files of those names that he knows he's going to be saving. And of course, at this point in their time, they're still kids, because of course that's 10 years in the future. And what I did appreciate about this is, of course, you look at his face, he's really taking it to heart. This is really bothering him. Now it's really gonna imprint in him that he has to do what he has to do. And again, I just have nothing but good things to say about this episode. I would say it's not ranking higher than the first one because of the issues I outlined while we were going through this, but it still was strong. I would say a 9 / maybe 8.75. I was still engaged. I was still there in terms of invested in the characters and the story. It tied it up in a little bit, but someone said on the Twitch bridge that it kept them wanting more. I would have to agree. It kept me wanting more. Now, we're going to go back to these issues that I had here. Again, the photons were red, we know, in the Next Generation. TOS, they were white. I have some comparison pictures here, some screenshots. This goes back to the one we took earlier. So these were red. Again, this could be just because they were modified. Sure. They do sound like photons. The phaser, it was orange. It should be blue. I'm just saying, it should be blue. Because this shot is from Discovery. When the Discovery and the Enterprise were fighting Section 31, you can see it was the twin blue screeching phasers. So whether there's a modification now for Strange New Worlds or whatever, again, I'm not too worried about it breaking canon, but you can't get away from it. You know what I mean, Captains? You just can't get away from it. And of course, I took these shots from the DS9 episode of the sorry, not the DS9 episode, the Enterprise, when the Mirror Archer took over the Defiant. It was firing torpedoes. It's white. You can almost say that it's white bluish, but it was still white. So, and again, this is the original Connie. So are they going to explain how its size now goes back to this, or it's going to be retcon, whatever. There's a torpedo. There's a couple more shots here of it. This is when it actually first escaped. There again, an aft torpedo launcher there on the Connie itself. It looks like it's coming from, I had a discussion of this a while ago, like, with someone. There was no actual torpedo launcher, but this came from that sensor dome that sits above the shuttle bay. So there was that. And then, of course, in this episode, still again, they're showing, this episode here, they're showing this, again, a white torpedo, twin phasers coming from that same sensor area there. It's blue phasers, white torpedoes. this shot was from the original series, again, with the blue phaser. So, again, I don't want to make it so much a big deal that it is sort of a make or break it for me moment. No, it's not. But there is definitely visual inconsistencies. Whether they're going to continue on with the red photons and the phaser, orange phaser, it's yet to be seen. Now, as I mentioned before, I just did a video on a rock and roll build for Star Trek Online on my Discovery Enterprise. And I had the blue screeching phasers with white photons. I'm going to have to make the adjustments to make them look like this here. Go back here a couple shots to have the orange phasers and the red photons as a refit. Captain, it doesn't take much for me to take inspiration from a show to make a fun build in Star Trek Online. But then again, this is why I ventured out to these type of things, because I love talking about it. I really do. And for the most part, this episode really continued on with the feels. It didn't score higher than the first one, but that's because of the issues I had, like I said, with La'an, Spock, with the photons, with the phasers, and the time frame from like 2 days to like an hour left. So they were there for 2 days, high radiation, but they took their helmets off. All that stuff was just sort of, there's no Mabanga, don't know why. Little things here and there. It's not, again, not a breaking moment for me, but again, Strange New Worlds has just lit a fire in me again to go so far as cover this in terms of a review. And, we're going over that 1 hour mark at this point again, but that's just because I'm invested. I love talking about the Star Trek stuff, especially Strange New Worlds, because it's taken me back to my childhood, captains. And, of all the inconsistencies or the things that I'm not liking, it still pales in comparison to how I feel, the positivity I feel for the series so far. We're only 2 episodes in, but so far, I'm loving it. So far, we've had, of course, Pike, a little backstory on Pike. Now Uhura. We had on La'an. Little bit of Hemmer, some Spock. Hopefully, next year we're going to get a little bit more Ortegas. I'd love to get a more backstory on Ortegas, on Hemmer, of course, and then, of course, Mabanga. He wasn't there this whole this second episode, but at the end of the day, we have 8 more episodes, so they have plenty of time, and I hope they don't rush things. That the pacing of this episode was great. It just left me wanting more, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to binge watch this, because I didn't want to wait for the next episode. So there, captains, that's my ECs, that's my conclusions on this episode. It was great. I'd give it a 9 / maybe 8.75, but really still pretty high. I loved it. I'm for it. And from this episode, I'm going to make another refit on my Discovery Enterprise in Star Trek Online, so look for those videos there, Captain. So again, Captains, I'd like to take this opportunity again for sticking with me through this sort of review, reaction to EC drop. I love this. I really am. I appreciate, Captains, you checking it out. Leave a like. Leave a comment. I make it a point to respond to all the comments here on the YouTube bridge. And it's been a great way to interact with my other fellow captains here that I've met on YouTube. And of course, captains, subscribe, because we're going to be doing more of this. I may be a little late on that just due to in real life, but it's still just me taking my time and enjoying what I'm seeing here. And like I said, captains, I'm invested. I am enjoying Strange New Worlds. And I hope they just keep this up. So far, 2 episodes in, loving both episodes. I look forward to the next one. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it is more Hemmer-centric. So I'm looking forward to that, because he's a fellow citizen here in my city here. So, but we'll leave it on this note, captains. Again, I have nothing but positivity feels for this series. And I'm going to lean heavily into that. There's issues with it, fine, whatever. But my positive feelings outweigh what I'm seeing. So let's keep it positive, captains, and until the next vid.
Live long and prosper.